Were these tool companies even taking into consideration that we'd be cutting a bunch of plywood and they gave us a throat plate with this big of a curve? I mean, come on, it's so easy to get tear out with these throat plates, so why don't they just make one with a thin curve? I just don't get it. Wouldn't it be great if you bought a table saw that came with 3 of these? One for thin curve, dado stacks, and 45-degree angles or something like that. Now, fixing this problem is clearly way overdue, so I guess that's on me. But the time has come, and I think the time is right before I start any other projects to make sure I get this all fixed up. So what am I gonna do? I do have the secret weapon. I paid $14.88 for a 15 by 20 inch cutting board. It even has the juice grooves. I don't see why I can't take this and turn it into a throat plate insert for the table saw. So follow along and let's see if I can pull this off. This cutting board from juice groove to juice groove is about 13 inches exactly. This throat plate is about 13 inches as well, right on the money. In order to not cut it too close, I'm gonna go ahead and rip this way as opposed to crossways, which we probably could do, but I'm gonna do without that. Now I wanna get my fence to the width of this, but if you look here, this actually has a little bit of a jiggle to it, and I want this to be more concise and perfect. So we're gonna leave a little extra room when cutting the width. So that's about nice and tight, so I'm gonna back it off just a tad. That should be just right. One thing that I forgot, real important, big mistake here.
What are you? An idiot sandwich.
But it's okay, we'll be fine. I need to trim off this juice groove first and then create my width. Luckily, this shouldn't affect it. All right, now that I got those juice grooves off, I can now find the proper width of the throat plate that we're gonna do. So, one more time. I need to trace this on here so I can get the right template. I'm gonna use these clamps to secure it. Gotta get it just right. I'm gonna use a Sharpie. I think that will work on this material. Oh, wait a minute. If I use a Sharpie, is it gonna leave a mark on this, and do I care? Will it come off? I have this ballpoint pen, and let's see how that shows up on this plastic. I think it's working. Visible enough. Now that I got my line, let's take it to the bandsaw and see how close we can get here. Now I just want to get as close as I can, but I don't need to get too close because we can always round this off on the sander back there. This is very aggressive grit, so I'm going to switch this out to something a little finer so it doesn't take it off so much and leave such a rough surface here. I'm curious how 220 will do. This is 40. Ooh. I didn't realize I had that rough of a grit on there. That's a lot better. I find that I can creep up on the line a lot better without it just taking it all off. Let's try that out. Let's try that out and see if that fits okay. In order to get this thing to fit right, I'm gonna have to remove the blade and the riving knife just so I make sure it's exactly how I want it. Now I haven't drilled a hole in for the finger hole, so I don't want to get it stuck, but I think that fits nearly perfectly snug. And I want it snug so it doesn't move around. Now before we go any further, I need to drill a hole in this because if I'm going to be fitting this in there, I don't want to get it stuck and I'm going to need the hole anyway. So Let's go ahead and do that right now. I gotta say, I think that came out pretty nice. Finger fits okay. That's the most important part. All right, so I finished this hole. Now I can stick it in here without getting it stuck. Now, off camera, I went back and kind of shaped it up a little bit more. And just to show you, this thing fits like 99% perfect. You want it nice and snug, that way it can't shift at all, because that zero kerf needs to be exact, and if it shifts at all, it's gonna mess up that kerf you make. And this came out really nice, and while you weren't looking, I would've made another one. So, just in case, you know, I had the space, I had the material. I made this insert that sits right on these 4 tabs, which creates that spacer, because now this piece can sit in here pretty even with the table saw. So when I raise the blade, it'll work out pretty nice. So I need to secure this because I don't want it flying anywhere, and I got an idea for that. I have these scrap cauls that I'm gonna put this way. You'll see most people do them this way, but this will teeter like this. I feel like I get more leverage if I put them like this. The table saw blade is back in there, by the way. I don't think the blade's gonna cut this caul, but if it does, that's still okay. I just need to create that cut here. All right, well, here goes nothing. It looks like this came out really nice. Nice, smooth cut, but there's not enough room for the riving knife with this kerf cut. And I need to extend this cut, and it needs to be just right. I came up with a really good idea that I don't think I've seen anyone do before, but we're gonna place this back in here, but raise it up with some sleds underneath it where I can slide it and then cut it along here, braced up against the fence to keep it straight. I think that's gonna work really well. I have these 2 pieces of MDF. I'm gonna keep using this because it's been good to me. And I added another piece right here. I'm gonna add this double-sided carpet tape, which I really like. Now this is flush up against the fence. And we're gonna bring this to about right here. And put this back on. So what we've done is basically made a sled. So let's just gotta hold it down here, pull it this way. All right, let's keep our fingers crossed. Dang it. Well, mistake number 1, before you do that, make sure the fence is locked in place. Otherwise, it's gonna mess up your cut, and now we don't have a perfect zero clearance kerf. But the good news is, I have a backup, so we're gonna do it again with this one. Take 2, hold on, let me set this up. Okay, take 2 on totally not trying to screw this up this time. All right, here we go. Oh man, that came out so good. I gotta pat myself on the back for that one. Genius idea. It's okay, you don't need the applause. Everyone sit down. Thank you, thank you. Have a seat. It's not over yet. We got a little bit more to do here, okay? Just gotta figure out what that is. The next step is to take these holes and put them in here so that the throat plate can be plumb with the table saw table. So I need to accurately place these on here. Now I could measure and all that stuff because they need to line up with the tabs on here. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna place it on top just like this, flip it over, and find a way that I can secure this to here so it doesn't move around. I'm gonna use the double-sided tape method again. That seems to be holding pretty good. Now I wanna puncture holes just to put little divots in each of these, but my awl is too big to fit here. So I took my little screwdriver and I brought it over to the oscillating belt sander and just sharpened this little screwdriver to make a sharper point. And I'm gonna hammer in little points where I can drill. So it's easier for me to see. I can just use this Sharpie and it'll make a little circle of everywhere that I punctured. I'm using a 7 64" drill bit because I have number 6 screws. I'm placing this right here and just bringing it down so it lines up with the hole that I punched. I'm gonna brace it here and then drill all the way through. I'm gonna repeat that on all the holes. These holes are 3/8 inch wide, so I'm using a 3/8 inch wide Forstner bit to drill, and I'm gonna only drill about halfway into here. So make sure you use the stop measure on your drill press so you don't go too deep and all the holes are uniform. Now, if you think we're done with this, we're not, because we're gonna do something special with this at the very end. But for the meantime, I'm gonna put these screws in the recessed holes that we drilled. These are number 6 screws that are 3/8 inch thick. Now, if you want anything, the screws, this material, anything that you see in this build, I'll have links to everything in the description so you can pick it up for yourself. But for the meantime, let's get these screws in. Once you got your screws in, you're gonna wanna make sure they're recessed below this and get this just how you want it. They gotta be below the top, which they are, so that's good. All right, let's prep this for the next phase. I'm gonna remove all these screws. And I have this sanding block here. I'm just gonna take off some of the little straggler pieces of plastic that are on the edges, clean this up preparatory for the next phase. Now there's a bit of a texture on this and I want to smooth this out a little bit in preparation for the next phase. So using a hand sander 220 grit, I'm just going to take off some of that layer of texture. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I don't want to bring it to the belt sander because I don't want to compromise the integrity of the flatness. I'm afraid that might just take a little too much off and make it uneven. I think that's about right where I want it. You can still see some of the texture, but very little. And it's nice and smooth, perfect for gliding those boards right along. So let's move on to the final stage. A white table saw insert on a DeWalt table saw, it does not look good. So we're gonna make this look pretty much the same color and make it match. In order to do that, I gotta put a primer on this, and it's gonna help the paint adhere to the plastic. You need this kind of primer for this kind of plastic so it all sticks when you put it on. So that's what we're gonna do. I I have this paint sample from Behr Paint that I got from Home Depot. It is the exact color match of DeWalt yellow. I just took a tape measure to the paint counter. I said, color match this. And I've been using this sample for several projects since then. I'm gonna put 2 or 3 coats on here, and then I'm gonna cover it with 2 or 3 coats of a water-based polyurethane, and it should look really nice after that. So stick around to see the final product. I ended up putting several coats of the water-based polyurethane on this, and I have to say, I really like how it turned out. And if you color match between the old one and the new one, it's not 100% perfect, but that's pretty darn close. Anyways, let's get this thing hooked up and give her a test run. I have this old piece of scrap that I've used for another video, says shiplap on it. We're gonna do a cross cut. The grain goes this way, so with cross cuts, you're more likely to get tear out, and this one already has a bunch of tear out. With rip cuts, you're not as likely to get tear out. So we're gonna try some cross cutting with this one on both sides and see what kind of results we end up with. All right, with these first test cuts with a 40 tooth blade, on the bottom side, we're getting some tear out, but not as much as we were getting before. On the front side, the top side, 0 tear out, maybe a little chip here, but essentially 0 tear out. Now, I'm a little disappointed with that, with the 40 tooth blade, but let's try with a 60 tooth blade and see if we get improved results. All right, test number 2 with the 60 tooth blade. There are just the tiniest bits of tear out here and just a few over there. This is another side we did. This is the underside. Just a little bit there, a little bit there, there. I have to say it's a significant improvement from where I was at. I'm happy with the results. I'm not completely satisfied with the results. I think if you added the painter's tape, maybe a sharper blade, then we might get even better results, but it's an improvement in the right direction. Another thing that I noticed, and I wasn't really surprised by this, but I'm already getting some tear out with the paint right here and right here with the friction. So to be expected, we're dealing with plastic here, but it's a fun project regardless. Whether or not this is yellow or not, it's still gonna work the same. I still have the 0 clearance. The 0 clearance is the 0 clearance. I'm sure there's a lot of variables involved in order to get the perfect kind of cut, but overall, it was a fun experiment and we're improving in the right direction. If you like these kind of videos where you're working in your shop or you want better ways to do things, maybe you like shop projects, I got the shop project video for you right here where I build a rolling wood scrap cart for all of your scrap wood needs. I take a new take on it and add a completely new feature that I think you're all gonna enjoy. So don't forget to click on that video right there, and I'll see you on the next video. Thanks for watching.